Hey everybody, welcome back to Tech Odyssey. I'm back with another phone comparison video, and this time it's the iPhone 10 versus the iPhone SE 2020 edition. So, funny thing is, the iPhone SE is based off of the iPhone 8 body and design, which ironically came out at the same time as the iPhone 10. The iPhone 10 was the revolutionary 10-year anniversary model, got the 2 cameras on it, Face ID, all sorts of great things that happened back then, but you still have the traditional form factor over here. So what I want to look at is, even though these phones are over 2.5 years apart now, is it worth upgrading or doing a lateral transition to the iPhone SE? Is this something you should consider looking at? Or if you're not using an iPhone and you want to get something on the less expensive side, would it be better to go with the iPhone 10 or the iPhone SE? So those are two things that I want to look at in this video. And before we get into this video, I want to say, if this is your first time stopping by the channel, I appreciate you being here. If you enjoy the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell so you can get updates on the latest videos. Now, let's take a look at these two phones. Okay, so you're probably very familiar with the iPhone 10. The iPhone 10, kind of a little bit of a controversial phone when it came out back in 2017, not because it was an iPhone, but one, it was expensive, $1,000 iPhone for the very first time, $999. And on top of that, they took away our beloved Touch ID home button, and everything went to a gestured approach along with having Face ID and all that other stuff. So it was expensive, and at the time I was upset about it because it was really a lot of money back then. Not that they aren't now, but the Band-Aid's been ripped off a few times over the last couple of years. So this had everything in it. We had IP67 dust and water resistance. It had wireless charging. It had quick charging or quicker charging. I mean, iPhones, especially these older ones, still charge slower than most Androids, but 5.8-inch OLED screen. We got Quad HD graphics. Dual camera setup on the back with the telephoto lens and the primary shooter, 12 megapixels, both of them. They did a lot of good things with this phone. And taking a look at it now, I've been using it for the last week. I used the iPhone SE for about 10 days. And then I switched over to this because I wanted to see what the differences are, compare them, and see if there's really, any advantage in looking at the SE, or if you're considering buying one, because you can pick these up a lot cheaper now. You can get Amazon renewed ones, you can get them on eBay, you can get them all over the place, to where you're not spending an arm and a leg to get an iPhone, but you can get all the wonderful same features, the Face ID, everything else that goes along with it. So having used this for the last week, I can say it holds up really well, and honestly, the performance is almost identical. And that's just because of iPhone, Apple, and the way they do their operating system. Even the iPhone SE has some gestured stuff in it now, in addition to the Touch ID button. So you've got your A11 Bionic chip in here, which is plenty fast. It's got a 3-core GPU for graphics, whereas not surprisingly, the SE has quad-core graphics in it as opposed to in here. But you also have a 720p screen, so what does it matter? So Quad HD graphics, which is really good. You've got the OLED panel, nice darks, great contrast. It's got like 625 nits of brightness, which ironically, the LCD screen on the iPhone SE 2020 also has 625 nits of brightness. So the baseline experience, that's one thing that Apple really goes for, is they try to make everything kind of look even across the board. The OLED though, you do get a leg up in quality of the graphics and the way that things look on the display. But overall, it's still a really good phone, and they run almost the same. The only things you're really going to be missing out on this is, of course, the phone is coming up on 3 years old now, so it's not going to be supported as long as the newer iPhone SE, but you still get everything. And of course, you have all the Apple services. You have Apple Pay, Apple TV Plus, you've got Apple Music, you've got iTunes, you can get the Apple Card, you can get everything that you could possibly want on here in the Apple package. But you really can't tell a difference. I mean, you look at this and then you look at the iPhone XS, it looks exactly the same. The only way you can tell on the back is between this and the 11 Pro is the fact that it has 3 cameras instead of 2, which if you don't care for the wide angle lens, there are still a lot of compelling reasons to pick up something like this. But really, if you want to use this phone, it's still very viable. I mean, even having the iPhone 11 Pro, I had the Pro Max, I had both of them this year, and I've switched around with so many phones. The experience is basically the same. So yeah, it's nice that the iPhone SE 2020 has the A13 Bionic chip in it, which is a little bit more power efficient, but you also have a 2716 milliamp battery in here versus the 1821 milliamp battery in the iPhone SE. But if you buy one of these renewed or refurbished or whatever, I wouldn't recommend buying one new in box because they're going to charge you more. There's no real advantage to that. But the only concern I would have is the battery life, and this one is at 91% battery life, battery health. And this one is about 1.5 years old now, so they do degrade over time. I found that the battery life between the iPhone 10 and the iPhone SE 2020 was about the same. The SE seemed like it might be a little bit better, but this is not a 100% battery health battery, so it's probably on par. Unfortunately, the reality is with both of these phones is I will kill the battery in both of them basically by 4 or 5 o'clock if I'm using it like a normal phone. You're gonna get about 4 to 5.5 hours of screen on time. And with the SE, I could get about 5.5, but I'm at like 10% battery. With this one, I didn't really get much over 4.5. And that's just, they were really not that great with power efficiency in the first place. But the cameras are still top notch. It's effectively the same camera. They have the same aperture, they have the same autofocus, they have a lot of the same things going on. You just happen to have the telephoto lens versus on here, you just have the regular primary shooter. They both take portrait shots on the back, and also you get the portrait shots on the front with the iPhone SE 2020, which is really nice as well. I didn't expect that, but it does have it. You also have the portrait shots on the front with the iPhone 10. So by and large, the experience though is basically the same, except this one is brand new and this one is almost 3 years old, which really one says something about how well Apple makes their devices, but at the same time, this is a really good phone too. It comes in 3 different colors. You've got the product red, you can get the black, or you can get the white one. I had the white and the red one. I ended up returning the white one because I liked the red one better. You've got the one single 12 megapixel camera, but what's great is using software and processing, you can get the bokeh effect without having to have dual cameras. And that was one thing that was frustrating with the iPhone 8 when it came out. The camera was not capable of taking portrait shots. So you had to have the 2 cameras for that. So you can do it with the one on here, and you even get portrait shots with the selfie. So really good job there. It's got the smaller housing. You've got wireless charging. You've got quick charge. You can get 50% of your battery in a 30-minute charge. You've got IP67 dust and water resistance. It's got the brand new A13 Bionic chip in it, which is nice because that's the same processor that the iPhone 11, 11 Pro, 11 Pro Max are using. Then you've got the 4.7-inch LCD screen on the front, 625 nits of brightness, which is really good, especially for an LCD screen. You should be able to see it outside pretty well, no problem. Then we've got the famous Touch ID. You've got the little home button that also operates as a fingerprint sensor, and you can turn the phone off with just using one button, which is nice. But as opposed to the iPhone 10, where you have to use the volume up and the power button for a screenshot, make sure you remember to hit the home button and the power button to take your screenshots that way. But overall, solid phone, especially for $399, starting with 64 gigabytes of storage, then $449 for 128 and goes up to 256 is an extra $100, which I don't really understand that. But overall, it's a very identical experience to the iPhone 10 and at a fraction of the price at what flagship phones run nowadays. Now, there are some core differences between the iPhone 10 and the iPhone SE 2020, but this is a really solid phone and it has a lot going for it, especially for the price point, and I really enjoy it. It has that nostalgia factor. It's like if they called this the iPhone Classic instead of the iPhone SE 2020 edition, I think that they probably would have gotten a little bit more of a marketing punch from it and people would have maybe looked a little bit less down on it, because the old iPhone SE, it was so small. It had the old iPhone 4 size screen. It had the old spongy push button on it for Touch ID. This is a nice tight package, just like the iPhone 8, except it has some updated internals for 2020, like 3 gigabytes of RAM. Now, if you want to go out and buy one, like I said, $399. These are about $400, $450, I think, from what I've seen with regard to renewed prices, but it's still really good. You get the same wireless charging, you get the same dust and water resistance, you get basically the same experience when you're taking photos. You just don't have the 2x, telephoto zoom, which I don't really find being all that important at the end of the day. Some people do, and if you do, then buy one with the telephoto lens. But I've been really happy with this one. I've been taking a lot of pictures with it. I've been doing a lot. And like I said, I've used both of these over the last 2 weeks. And like I said, it's basically the same phone. This one just has Touch ID, and it has the Touch ID button. And this one, you have Face ID. So you do have a difference in the screen size. You have the 4.7-inch LCD here versus the 5.8-inch OLED panel here. If you care about screen size, and if you care about having face unlocking versus having a physical home button, then definitely look at this. If you have an iPhone 10 though, I don't really see that there's a whole lot of reason to get the iPhone SE. And here's why. You made this decision almost 3 years ago. There was the iPhone 10 and there was the iPhone 8, which is effectively what this phone is. It's just refurbished with new stuff. So if you wanted the iPhone 10 back in 2017 over the iPhone 8, I don't see why you would want an iPhone SE 2020 versus an iPhone 10 now. You would probably want to continue with having this, unless you just missed Touch ID so badly and you missed having a lower resolution, smaller screen so badly, then yeah, you could do a lateral transfer, but I don't really see it. Now, if you're looking at buying a new iPhone or you have an older iPhone than these two models, definitely both of these are solid upgrades. This one is not going to last you as long with security and software updates because it's already almost 3 years into its lifespan. This one's guaranteed like 5 years, so we're talking 2025. Also, it has a more future-proof processor, the A13 Bionic versus the A11, but considering what you're pumping the power out into this little processor, this little package, it's kind of overkill. I mean, it's not that you really need it. You can't tell a difference other than it's just more power efficient. So I see why they put the new processor in here versus in using an older processor. It'll get you further down the road. It doesn't require as much power. So if you are using an iPhone 7 or earlier model or previous SE generation, these are both solid upgrades, especially if you don't want to spend the money, get an iPhone XS or an iPhone 11 or 11 Pro. This is a really good option at around the $400, $450 price point. Whereas this brand new $399 is also very tempting. I happen to like Touch ID better than I like Face ID, and this one I would pick over this one. I like that it's lightweight. I like that it's small, easy to use. You can even use all sorts of iPhone 7 and 8 accessories for it. And this is not a plug for Nomad, but I totally love Nomad products. And I got this blue leather Nomad case, which is normally like $50 for $8.75 tax and shipping on eBay. I even got a Mophie battery case, which you can get for like $25. So there are a lot of options to extend the battery life on this. Plus you can get so many cheap accessories. I got the screen protector for like $7 for a 3-pack. So you can use all the iPhone 7 and 8 stuff. And then of course, iPhone 10 accessories are not crazy expensive. So that's not really a big argument, but overall, it really comes down to, do you want Touch ID or do you want Face ID? And do you want a larger screen or a smaller screen? And those are really the only two things. The cameras and the capabilities are pretty much on par. Neither one are really all that great at low light. So you're talking about ideal shooting or normal shooting conditions. Both have very capable, effectively the same camera. So you're not gonna lose out anything there. So really, like I said, you want a button, you want Face ID. Those are your two real distinctions. And do you want something that's brand new or do you want something that's a few years older but was the cutting edge technology in 2017 at a 2020 price? So those are kind of the things that you need to weigh in if you decide that you want one of them. But what I'm here to say is that they're both fantastic. They are both great. You can't go wrong with either one of them. And I've been using both of them seamlessly for the last 2 weeks and I've been enjoying it. I normally use a Galaxy Fold. I've had the iPhone 11 Pro, 11 Pro Max. I like that these are lighter. I like that they're smaller. I like that they're more affordable and more cost effective. I don't like spending $1,000, $1,200 on a phone. So being able to get all the features, all the services and everything that I want out of an iPhone in a $399 or $450 price point is really a great deal for a lot of people, especially if you don't want to spend a ton of money. So that's my comparison between both of them. They're both solid phones. I mean, the color options are different, but effectively it's the same core experience. They're both gonna last you a long time and you can't go wrong with either. I kind of like this one a little bit better than this one, but you may be in a different boat. And that's why I wanted to kind of present both of these things so you could get an opportunity to see what they look like side by side, kind of an experience from somebody who knows a lot about these phones and been using them, and whether it's viable or which one you should get in 2020. So that's all I've got in this video. Like I said in the beginning, if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell so you can get updates on the latest videos when they come out. And again, thanks for watching. I appreciate you being here, and I'll see you guys next time.